All right, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of our bi-weekly update, where we keep you in tune with what's going on, both worldwide and Gentian-wide. So a great place for us to connect and talk about different ideas going on. So what I'd like to start with today, there's maybe a quick prayer for those in Maui who were affected. Many of you have been to Maui. Many of you have seen the banyan tree. Many of you have been to Lahaina town. There's 4,500 people who've been displaced, unfortunately. Over 100 who probably lost their lives in a wildfire of just epic proportion. I think it's the deadliest wildfire in U.S. history presently. So amazing to see. When it was happening, there was very scattered news about it as well. I know quite a few people who are from there, who have properties around there, and they say the scene was just absolutely as you'd expect. So I'm not sure as to why, not concerned with as to why, but more importantly with the who's that have been affected by it. So just maybe we'll take a quick 30 seconds just to reflect and maybe send some good vibes out their way to help them as they rebuild their lives. Thank you all. So as we say a prayer for them, kind of coming back into what we have going on here, there's a lot of things going on in the economy, but this summer has shown a wonderful upturn in the market. The last few weeks, you've seen a bit of a downturn. These are natural cycles. So in perspective, we'll talk a touch about those. Whenever the market goes up 20% or more, there's always a pullback that occurs. That's a natural flow of markets. So I think as you find some summer doldrums, there are definitely not doldrums, actually some very exciting markets on the upside of the equation. And actually now a little bit of pause as people are concerned once again with interest rates and a few other things, which we'll talk a little bit more about as we go through. What I'd like to do is to go big for myself. I got to spend a week with my mom. We spent 7 days. I think the greatest gift I could give was as much time as possible over a 7 or 8 day period of time spent together, out doing different things, waking up at the farm, which was a lot of fun as well. So we had a great time with my daughters. Their busy schedule going on too, but my go big is really spending time with her. How about Ken? How about yourself?
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Good to be here with you all. My go big is I have a good friend, old neighbor of mine who's struggling with his health right now. Besides his family, golf might be his number 2 passion in life. And he actually had a pretty big win recently in the golf tournament recently in the area. So it was a big morale boost for him, just in general, just to get something going for him that he really needed. And he just kind of lit up after everything happened, and it's almost like a revived life. So I'm grateful to see that he's on. Yeah, he got that moment in his life right now that he needs right now. So grateful to see that.
Awesome. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken. How about Michael? Mike, let's call Mike Man.
Thanks, Chris. Grateful to be sore. It's a weird thing to be saying, but I took a little hiatus from the gym to focus on exercising my brain outside of work hours. And it's nice to be able to have a little bit of extra time to get back there now.
Awesome. Awesome. Some of us have taken a little time away from the gym for a long time, and that's been pretty nice. I'm joking. How about Michael B? Michael Birchbach.
Good morning. I'm grateful for my dog. She just turned 6 on Monday, Jojo. And just the companionship. I wasn't very keen on getting a dog at the time just because life was pretty busy, but I'd say there's no feeling like coming home and just having somebody excited to see you every time you walk through that door. So just grateful for that this morning.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Ashley, how about yourself?
Thank you. And I guess I'm thankful, same thing as you, Chris. And I got to spend some time with both my parents who came into town this last weekend. And while I was dog sitting for them while they took a trip, I was very happy to give those dogs back and get my house back in order. So I am grateful for that.
That's always nice too. I appreciate that. Thank you. Anyone else? Angie, how about yourself?
Thanks, Chris. I am grateful for my health. Last year, I went through some additional testing for some health issues, and this year I do not have to go through any additional testing, clean bill of health, and so I am just grateful for that.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it as well. Well, you heard that Mike took a little bit of time off the gym, but what's interesting is Mike's been going out a bit. He's been hit by the same bike 3 times since he's been out working out again. It's a vicious cycle. You'll get it. At any rate, that's always kind of fun to go back through as well. So a few things that I wanted to touch on today, mortgages, Barbie, strong economy and wage data, Tesla's cuts in China, they cut the prices a second time, rich session, unemployment still at about 3.5, sitting very, very, very low. And Apple is now producing their new iPhone 15 in India as well as China. So interesting to watch, a few things going on here. The markets have been kind of moving up and down. There's some tax law, I'm sure that's going to be discussed and talked about as we see in upcoming election cycles. There's a lot of bantering back and forth about things they'll be doing. A lot of interpretation as well about the Secure Act 2, which I know Ken knows more about as well, and will give us some ideas on, maybe not today, but there's just a ton of stuff going on in that in the background. So we're keeping attention to what we should right now. A lot of it's been just talking with you, seeing how things have gone with you this summer, how budgets are. We're finding a lot of people still spending a lot on vacations and also on, let's call their home environment. So people are willing to put money still into their home environment, landscaping, traveling. There's a few people who had passports who had no pages stamped, so they're planning on getting a stamp since COVID. There's a lot of travel going on. So we've seen at companies like Priceline, a lot of interest in travel been going on. And fewer people to Mexico, more people to Europe has been very, very common. So Europe's been, and actually Japan's been a big hotspot as well in some of those travel areas. So what I'd like to do today is I'd like to also wish our great teammate, Zach, wonderful. He's traveling this week. He's just left yesterday. He's going to Colorado. He's going to do a 14,000-foot hike with one of my, I guess it'd be my sister-in-law, Danny and Dave, out in Colorado. And then he's actually going to run the last 40 to 50 miles of a 100-mile mountain race with a friend in Colorado. So just, it's not very far. It's only 40 or 50 miles. I mean, he's done 100, but it's the highest elevation 100-mile race in the world. So his friend's running it and trying to accomplish something that he didn't the first time. So Zach will be the pacer for the last 50 miles, which is pretty impressive. So he won't be here today, but we have in his place all sorts of wonderful information from Michael Birschbach, Michael Mann, Ken Flannery, Ashley, and I'll bring Angela back on at the end. So today, really, if we kind of had a theme, it's summer. It's back to school time. We're in the middle of August here, which is crazy to get to. Usually on the day of August 1st, I play from a band, Counting Crows, August and Everything After for the entire day. And I realized, holy cow, that was over 2 weeks ago already. But what's interesting about August and Everything After is when the football season starts. It's kind of this nostalgic season for myself. Yesterday, I think it was probably 6 o'clock, I was running on the bluff at Concordia, and some of the new students are coming in. So they're walking, I call it wandering around aimlessly. They have no idea where they're going. But it's funny to watch them walk down and see the bluff for the first time and walk down it. And as I'm also running, I'm looking up and seeing, I think it's the cormorants are migrating south. So it's actually a pattern that I watch, and they come up north and sometime in May, and now they're moving south in August. So it's really interesting to watch some of those different things we pay attention. It's kind of like with the markets as well. What do we pay attention to? What do we not? What do we notice? What do we get too busy to notice? So we'll bring a few more things out for you in that category as well. But what I'd like to do before I get too much into it, let's go to Mike's minute. Mike has maybe 3 or 4 minutes today because Zach is not here. So Mike, you can, if you'd like to get into the weeds, I'll bring the clippers out in case we get too deep in the weeds. We'll clip them out.
Sounds good. I did let Chris know to bring his machete this morning in case that happened to be the case. So yeah, just cut me off once my minutes are up. That's
Okay.
totally fine.
Okay.
So stepping in for Zach this morning, I want to go through the markets a little bit, see what we're seeing year to date. S&P 500, even with the volatility that we've had recently, still up 15.78% year to date. And these are all live numbers right now. If I trip, it's because they're quite literally changing in front of me. The Russell 2000, which is going to be all those small cap companies, that's up 7.8% year to date. Interestingly enough, though, we've actually seen the Russell 2000 small cap companies outperform the S&P 500 over the last 3 months, with the Russell 2000 being up about 1% more than the S&P 500. It's up 9.37% in the last 3 months. So we're seeing some of those sectors start to catch up and starting to outperform, which is some of the interesting things that we look at and why we own a diversified portfolio at the end of the day. Taking a look at that discrepancy between growth versus value, especially in the large cap this year, large cap growth is up 27.6%, Large cap value up 4.3, not the story we saw last year. So those rebalancing, this is the story we've been telling since we began this year, and we started to see this kind of changing of the guard, watching growth kind of come roaring back over value, which had such a nice year last year. Not really a ton of performance on the upside, but really just holding water in a year that was very down for a lot of the market. So that's very interesting to see. And it's just continues to come back to that story of why we own both, why we rebalance, because it gives us that opportunity to participate in those sectors with the gains that we had elsewhere the year before. Looking down the list a little bit more, we want to talk a little bit about emerging markets. Emerging markets this year is up 2.66%. Now that was a sector that really outperformed towards the end of last year, and now it's kind of teetered off a little bit. And then we're developed international, we're looking at 8.28% year to date. So I want to come back to that growth story. So growth outperforming value year to date, and why we believe it's so important to continue to own growth. You know, some people talk about sector rotation being a little bit more aggressive than what we participate in by only taking the gains, getting back to that core allocation. Some are calling for moving out of growth into value and all of these different things. But here's the case for why we want to continue to own growth long-term going forward. And really, it comes down to information and the speed of which it's being created. And those companies that can withstand and continue to grow in a way, it's going to be those participating. And tech companies typically fall into that growth mindset. And so the opportunity that's out there for some of these companies to continue to innovate with the speed of technology that's coming out, and why AI has really contributed to why these things have run, is just because of the efficiencies that they can bring, the opportunity to create new product and be able to bring more stuff to us as the consumer. And I think it's so incredibly interesting when you think about how value companies are, you know, valued as such, because a lot of it is price to book ratio for why they think that the value company will be better in the future, because they have all of this stability, right? Well, the price to book ratio is based on tangible assets. And here come the weeds, Chris. So price to book ratio is based on the tangible assets, the inventory that the company has, those sort of things. What isn't in there is intangible. That's the software. That's the people, the services, what's been created, the AI platforms. All of those things are not taken into account when looking at a value company. So value companies sometimes do not have that. Now, there is the exceptions. There are people who do proprietary sort of AIs underneath the cover to be able to continue to grow their own business internally. But that is really the exceptional part about growth companies, is that that is part of what they have. And that's what we're really seeing as being an opportunity long term. And just coming back to everything that Chris talks about when he comes back from Abundance 360, he's all fired up and saying that, you know, the amount of time it took for something to double back in the day was exponentially longer than the amount of time that takes for that same information to double today. So we want to be owning those who participate in it and not completely rotating out of them, no matter what could happen in the short term. Thanks, Chris. Chris, you're still on mute. I mean, I can keep going if you want me to.
No, that's okay. I was speaking in parentheses. I was just speaking in parentheses, Mike, just testing to see if you knew. Thank you very much, Michael. I do appreciate that as well. And Mike, it's interesting to see that's going on, but there's a ton that you'll see here too lately, if you're looking at perspective, where when companies are missing, they're getting slaughtered. So if you miss slightly, or if you project future results not to be as strong, the market's pretty, they're fairly scared. So it's interesting to watch that, but after a long run, sometimes that happens. So you'll see this in a normal cycle where typically there was, I think it was NVIDIA this year, where they reported earnings weren't as bad as expected and they flew up like 20%. But we've now shifted to a different part of the environment where people are a bit more leery, I guess you will, of future projections. So thanks, Mike, on the growth story. The growth story is fantastic when it's running. That has put growth into a relatively expensive historical category. So we're probably going to see value in other categories historically with mean reversion. I mean, they come back to where they normally are, probably outperform. So that's great perspective, Mike. I appreciate that. Let's over to Michael Berschbach. Michael Berschbach, you got a few things for Zach's facts. Why don't we kick in a few ideas that you have? Let's call it Mike's facts. Michael's facts.
Thanks, Chris. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the fear of retirement and how we can kind of curb that fear. So at Gensyn, of course, we have a lot of discussions around retirement, and we've seen a lot of people who have done an incredible job of saving and investing for their retirement. And when they near retirement and we run the financial plan and maybe have a plan to retire in 5 years. And we love to share the good news that they've done a good enough job that they're able to retire today. And we're excited to share that, but we don't always see that same excitement from the client when we have that conversation. Many people fear stopping working and don't really have a plan for that transition. And they may say, what will I do with all of this time? What's my purpose now? So if you find yourself feeling that way, there's a couple of things that you can do to help. Chris probably has a lot more, but I'll keep it pretty brief. So you can consider slowing down work instead of stopping completely. Still making an income, still have a day-to-day purpose, but it gives you more freedom and flexibility to try that. And if you're thinking about relocating, you can consider try before you buy. So renting a home or an Airbnb for a place you may desire to move. To tell you if you can deal with that new lifestyle, can you deal with the weather? Does your family and extended family's lifestyle allow them to visit you, or are you still able to visit them as much as you do want to see them? On the flip side, you can also rent your current home at the time that you're traveling and visiting and trying that area to offset some of that cost. And lastly, you can make a plan of things that you like to try. You can continue to do some of the hobbies that you like to do now while you're working, but question you may want to ask yourself is, will that fill all of that free time that you're about to have? And you can always think of some things that you wanted to learn. I like to create lists of things that I want to try. And volunteering is also a great way to feel fulfilled with something that you're passionate about. We always hear from clients, and most recently this hit home with my mom recently retiring, but she said to me, and almost says it weekly now, I feel like I'm busier now that I'm retired than when I was working. Thanks, Chris.
You bet. Awesome, Mike. I think one of the things I've done through most of my life is actually to talk to people about retirement. Even before I was in the business, I didn't realize it. But I think purpose is number one. I think that's something most people don't spend much time on, or what they'll do with their time. A lot of you do stay busier, which is amazing. But I do think that is a couple of great pieces of advice as you go forward in retirement. But I think the key is too that since every day doesn't have a deadline, you can push everything out on a consistent basis and you feel like you're not accomplishing anything. So a lot of times it's trying to get things finished as if today was the deadline. And it's interesting. It sounds like it might put pressure on yourself, but it actually helps you get things done. You feel more fulfilled. So just a couple of different items that I thought could be helpful as well. Thank you very much, Mike. So as I go through here too, there's a couple things I wanted to bring up because probably the most important thing is the Barbie movie. And I think you've all been talking about it. I should be wearing pink today, but Barbie is now the #1 grossing movie of all time produced by a woman, which is fantastic. So I was raised by a woman, as maybe some of you were as well. But what's interesting about that to me is this Barbie movie is a phenomenon. My daughters watched a lot of Barbie, and I'd always go away and go somewhere else. And they're sometimes kind of funny, but they watch these Barbie cartoon movies. This is actually a movie, you know, with people in it as well. I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen more people buy more pink in the last 4 weeks than I've ever seen in my entire life. So I think Ken's fashion statement might actually be back in set and actually, you know, Ken, with the pink that you wear all the time. I think it's actually back in session. It could be Adriana, it could be, you know, we're not sure, but again, I just thought that was a pretty interesting thing. But Barbie movie is now a $1.4 to $1.6 billion projected gross. The highest grossing movie of all time, I think, was Avatar 2 at $2 billion. So just to give you perspective, this movie is approaching one of the highest grossing movies of all time. And we call it cultural phenomenon, whether you like it or not. If you want to relate to your teenagers, you may want to see the Barbie movie. I don't know anything about it. I'm just saying you may. And if you go, wear pink or dress like Ken, not Flannery. As we go through. But it's kind of funny. I just want to say, I think last week Ken bought he went to Amazon and bought a book of puns, but he didn't get it. So Ken, with that, I want to bring you on. Bring us what's going on for planning right now. Ken's been under the weather.
Throwing me under the bus. I love this.
I had to today. It was kind of funny. You said you weren't feeling well, so I figured I'd pile on.
Which is true. But yeah, so I don't think I'm ever in fashion. You know, I'm always like, you know, whatever's happening, I'm probably the opposite of. I need to pay attention more to that probably. But
no, you're good.
No, all good stuff though, all good. So what are we excited for? Kids going back to school in a couple weeks. I mean, financially, what are we excited about? What we're seeing right now, Secure Act 2.0. You've heard about it. It's out. There's so many to be determined. there's nothing really that came out in the last 2 or 3 months that has given any clarity to say 529 plans to Roth IRAs, give me any clarity to things of that nature right now. Catch-up provisions for those who are still working. Again, someone making over 145,000 doing a catch-up provision in a 401k plan, that money's supposed to be going into Roth portion of the plan. Well, maybe there's only like 80% of the plans that have the Roth portion, maybe 20% don't even have it. So how is that going to work? There's so many to be determined when it comes down to all this. So my guess is we're going to see some more clarity, probably December 27th of this year. We'll probably get some clarity for 2024. But whatever it is, whenever we get the information, we'll be disseminating that information to you if it pertains to you, and it applies to your scenario. So couple things I'm hearing in the meetings consistently: financing of things, items, things you want to do, taxes, and a little bit of estate planning. So those are the three things I'm hearing right now. On the financing, it's interesting because a year ago, it was clear cut and dry what we should be doing. I mean, when interest rates were super low, home equity lines of credit were super low, it was almost a no-brainer to try to finance as much as we possibly could if it made sense for your scenario. Now it's different. Mortgage rates are 7%, which anybody who looked backwards here in the last year or so think that's super high. But if you ask some of you, you think that's still pretty reasonable and maybe even low because of 12 and 14% that you might have been used to for those who are on the call today. So it's all perspective on that one. But when mortgage rates are 7%, home equity lines of credit are right there as well, around 7 or 8%. Our long-term portfolio is trying to do 7, 8% historically. So we're at this balancing point right now of financing versus using our money. And again, this is going to be very dependent on your own situation. How much cash do we have on hand? This all matters to what we're going to do and what the game plan is. How long are we financing for? Is it a short-term thing? Is it a 1-year thing? Is it a 5-year, 10-year? So bring those ideas up to us. We're going to help you find the best solution that makes sense for you short-term and also that doesn't jeopardize us long-term as well for our retirement and income that we're looking for as well. When it comes to taxes, there's taxes while we're working, there's taxes in retirement, and there's taxes for legacy planning at the end, basically. Those are the three really areas that we focus on in tax planning for you all. Tax Cuts and Jobs Acts are supposed to sunset at the end of 2025. So we have basically 3 more years here. Something we have an eye on. It's going to revert back to the old ways. Remember, we used to itemize a lot during those timeframes or take the standard deduction. Now it's primarily a bigger standard deduction that we get. The federal brackets are going to move around a little bit. So we focus on conversion planning for you guys, IRA money to Roths. These are all going to come into play. So we have some great opportunities in the next 3 years to really take advantage of some really what people consider to be low rates right now. So estate planning, just want to touch on this. I'll hand it back over to Chris. I heard something recently that was pretty interesting. When looking at your estates that you have or something that you're going to inherit, so if you're going to leave an inheritance or if you're going to gain an inheritance, what does that look like? Is there something in the estate that should be there forever? Is there something that should be like the family forever, if you will? So a lot of times we see estates being split up, 50-50, a third. But is there something that could be there forever? Once we identify that, then we start to identify maybe the splitting of things after that. So I thought that was a really unique one. Is it a lake house? Is it a special property, a piece of land that you have that really should be the family forever? Then let's plan around that when it comes to estate planning to make sure that that legacy can continue on with that special piece that you have in your family. So with that being said, hand it back over to Chris.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. So talking about going back to school, it's that time of year. So my youngest daughter, Samantha, is going through freshman orientation today. This morning, I took her to school for freshman orientation. She will now be in school for 1 year with her older sister, Isabel, who is a senior. Yes, those little babies that I had that you saw when you walked in at the movie theater years ago or whenever are now seniors and freshmen in high school. And what's interesting, we were driving to school today, and it was a wonderful drive, and we get there and it's busy. I'm like, wow, there's all these freshman parents dropping them off. The coolest thing was though they had 10 or 12 seniors outside at Homestead where you drop them off, cheering them on, literally cheering them as they got out of the car. it was one of the coolest little things. It's just a little kind of a thing, but I thought, wow, that really made a difference to them coming in, and they're cheering them. They're giving them, incredible praise opportunity. I just thought it was a neat mix as well. So at any rate, I thought that was a great one. So I'm going to go over to Ashley's Acumen. I changed it. I just changed the name to Ashley's Acumen. So I'll look more at it. It's maybe not the full-time answer, but I think it's great. Ashley, what should we be looking for, and what might we want to splurge on?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Today, I'm going to touch on a place that we all frequent very often, and that is, of course, the grocery store. So a couple of tips just for saving some money at the grocery store is always make a list. Anytime we go into the grocery store hungry or without that list, we all spend more than we really needed to. Shopping in bulk, Costco, Sam's Club, as well as even Walmart, buying some things that last or have a longer shelf life at a box store can definitely save you some money. Using coupons, so many stores offer digital coupons, coupon books, your weekly savers. Use those apps, use those things to save yourself some money. Buying store brands is also another great way to save some money. A lot of those products are obviously created and boxed in the same facilities, so the ingredients really are very similar, and you get the same great product. Planning your meals. If you can plan a meal for the rest of the week, or trying to make 2 or 3 meals for that week and just buy those ingredients, definitely can save you some money at the grocery store. And now the splurge side of things, Whole Foods, one of a great grocery store chain. They keep so many chemicals, colors, dyes out of foods. It's a great place if you want to splurge to take a trip to, as well as Trader Joe's. They are very conscious of what products they hold in their store. So if you want to make a little bit of a better choice and stay away from those things that are, in that middle section, like Doritos, sodas, definitely take a trip and splurge worthy at Whole Foods as well as Trader Joe's. And that's all I have for today.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. Those are awesome. I appreciate those as well. And I think Whole Foods, some people call it whole paychecks because of the price sometimes, but I think when you pick the proper things, it's great. And I think for Amazon holders, there's some special deals with grocery delivery as well. You can check out too. What's interesting, and I'll pass this over to Angie to tell us what we need to pay attention to it here at Gentium, but I was talking to a client recently, and he was losing his hair. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's been over time. We saw that. And he told me just recently at a meeting, hey, look, Chris, and I could tell right away, I was at a garage sale and I got this hair piece for $0.25. I got this wig for $0.25. I'm like, wow, I guess it was a small price to pay. At any rate, as we go forward, once again, Angie usually laughs at this. I got to give her a quick minute here as well. It's not really that funny, but I thought I would share that with her just before she goes on. So, what do we need to pay attention to today?
Thanks, Chris.
You bet.
Well played. All right, just give me 1 second. So today we will have our office will be closed from noon to 4 as our team focuses on getting better for you. So we will be unavailable during that time. We will definitely be returning calls and emails when our session concludes. So right around the 4 o'clock time, if you require any immediate assistance, please feel free to call Raven James. Otherwise, we'll get back to you when we are done with our session. Our August birthday club is next Wednesday, August 23rd. There is still time to RSVP. So if you could get your RSVPs in by today, we would greatly appreciate it. We hope to see you all there, everyone who is celebrating a birthday during the month of August. Our next bi-weekly update will be Wednesday, August 30th. Again, all this information is in your bulletin and ways to RSVP for that. Our office will be closed September 4th for Labor Day, along with Raymond James. We will be back on Tuesday and hope everyone has a safe and wonderful Labor Day weekend and wrapping up the summer before the kids go back to school. And Ladies in Gentian is Wednesday, September 6th. That'll be at 10 a.m. We have some fun stuff to share with you guys for that. Again, you can register for that in our bulletin. We'd love to see you ladies there. Even if you just want to pop on for a little bit and say hi, or join the conversation for the full hour, we would love to see all of our wonderful ladies on that webinar. Wednesday, September 13th is a big one. It's our Shred event and National Eat Outside Day. So please join us. We will have time slots and food provided. It will be an outdoor event. We'll have shredding trucks available. And once again, RSVPs and sign up will be in the bulletin. And that is all I have, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And next time I won't tell a joke before you get on because I see you're still laughing, which is
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh, I probably will anyway. As we go through. But I want to thank you guys. A tremendous day today. Thanks for your time. I was a couple of minutes behind my time as well. I know there's a lot going on here. One thing Ken mentioned I wanted to touch on again too. There's a lot of things going on with inheritance lately. So the Greatest Generation, as obviously a lot of people have been passing, also some of the baby boomers have as well. But what's happening is we're seeing younger and younger people beginning to receive inheritances, and there's a lot of roadblocks, a lot of things that people don't know about when they receive them. So if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. We're going to start doing some programs on that as well, on what to do when I receive money. It's not just saving money, but if you have some great family heirlooms or maybe a lake property, as Ken mentioned, there's a lot of things to take a look at with as well. So what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of an idea. So I'll leave you with this. Today, or last, I guess it'd be Sunday at church, our pastor gave us a wonderful statement. I don't know if he meant to give us this way, but what do you want to fan the flames of? So he was talking about fanning the flames of Christianity and being Christian. But I looked at this too, and I took the step out, fan the flames of. So when you look at a fire that's kind of going out, if you've ever been camping, you can wave like cardboard at it and you see it, the flames come back, pretty immediately. It's cool to see. So what is it in your life you want to fan the flames of? Is it kindness? Is it fitness? Is it relationships? But I want to put that out there to you guys. So it's more of the live it side of the equation. But what is it you want to fan the flames of in your life? Because money is important. We'll take care of that. We'll help you with it. We'll help you make great decisions on it. But more importantly, we know money is simply there to support what's more important to you. And that's typically health. That's typically going to be, family, going to be charities that you guys work with. More to many of you, it's your grandkids or children as well. So what do you want to fan the flames of? That relationship? Maybe if you want to fan the flames of your relationship with your grandkids, you go see the Barbie movie. I'm joking. I don't get paid for that. I just thought it was hilarious how popular it is and how much I thought it would not be. But with that, I want to say, let's look at what you want to fan the flames of. There's a lot going on, if you will, here. We look forward to seeing you when you come in for your fall meetings, fall and winter meetings. But any questions you might have for us, please feel free to reach out. We're here for you. And I want to thank you one more time for the introductions you're giving to us. One thing we've committed to you, as you know, is to working 100% for you. We're going to spend our time on you. And if you see someone that you think might make sense for us to work with, that you think is good character, has the right mindset, we appreciate when you introduce them to us, and you guys have been fantastic at that, introducing the right people, and in a few cases, screening out the people maybe we shouldn't see. So I really appreciate your growing this firm and the different things that you do for that. I really, really want to make sure you understand that we appreciate those as well. So what I want to say here on Planet Live It, Give It from Gentian Retirement, I want to say, have a great week here from the galactic headquarters, world headquarters, whichever you like, in Mequon, Wisconsin, of Gentian Financials right now. You have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you for being a few minutes over time with me today. You take care. Bye-bye.